That was so annoying for me. I cannot even express.
Well, I guess.
My word. Like,
all right, hang on. Yeah, where should I add that? When we get to Sherry infected. Two grown men really angry about it. I just added to.
we can put the whole hour on this topic, and I'll just go off like.
Okay. Welcome, fellas, to Resident Evil 2! We're doing that now! I'm Dolan Malna, and I'm here with my buddy Austin.
Hello!
And my buddy Christian.
Howdy do.
Alright. Yeah, so today, we finally made it through Resident Evil 1. We're starting with Resident Evil 2. So yeah, definitely before we start, wanted to start off with a question for our audience, and you two as well, and that was, what is the first Resident Evil game you played? And I'll kind of add a tack onto it. How did that influence your opinion of the series? Austin, I think you've tapped into this before, but I kind of wanted to start off hearing your opinion on this.
Well, my first, okay, so I'm going to answer in two different answers. Technically, the first Resident Evil game I ever started to play was Resident Evil 4 on the Wii. Did not play more than 15 minutes of it, so I don't know if that counts much. My full
Resident Evil camera
game,
bad.
Yeah, my full actual Resident Evil game that I actually played first and got into the series with was Resident Evil 2 Remake. So this is going to be a fun one to playing the original one and remembering what got me into the series in the first place.
Oh man, that's exciting. So how did that? I guess I'll ask you again. Both of the, well, I guess you kind of already answered. Resident Evil 4 on the Wii was like Resident Evil Camera Bad was the influence that. How did Remake of 2 kind of influence your opinion of the series as you were getting into it?
It pretty much just set the standard in my head, like, this is a really fun and cinematic, like, shoot horror game that I actually enjoy. Because typically I hate horror games, and even though this doesn't really feel like the most horror-y of games, it has horror vibes, and it vibed really well.
Nice. Yeah, so it is funny that we're going back to the beginning of what was an even earlier version of your beginning with this series. That's pretty cool. Christian, I think I know the answer to this too, but what was your first Resident Evil game and how did it influence your opinion of the series?
So my first game came to me from, I don't want to say names, but from a family member.
Someone who's crazy enough to maybe make you sit down and talk about these games in front of the internet for fun.
Well, I don't want to name names, so I can't disclose their information. But
got it, obviously.
Christmas present: Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 multi-pack for the Nintendo Switch, which I played 4 and then basically jumped right into 5 and played. I still haven't beat 5.
No, you haven't. Now you're going to beat it for the podcast.
Yeah, now I can't go back until we get there for the pod. But yeah, undisclosed family member suggested that I try these by buying them and giving them to me for Christmas, and yeah, it was Resident Evil 4, a lot of fun. They bought it for me. Yeah, it could be anyone. They bought it for me right around the same time that the Resident Evil 4 remake came out, so there was a lot of hype about it. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did not have any problem with the camera, and because Resident Evil 4 doesn't have fixed camera angles, which I enjoyed.
But that was still the one that gave Austin problems, is what's funny.
The Wii was different. The Wii
no, it's the same.
It felt different. It's the Wii controller.
I could see the Wii being different. But, yeah, Resident Evil 4 gets a thumbs up for me.
And how did it influence kind of your opinion of the series before you delved into the rest of it?
I mean, it kind of... I mean, it gave me a positive view of the series, and intrigued me enough to continue playing on to 5 and wanting to go back into the other ones with you guys. I mean, I enjoyed with 4 at least. There was a little bit of the campiness to it that we saw in Resident Evil 1 with Leon.
Yeah.
And
good to know it survives.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a solid game. I don't, at least from memory, I don't have anything negative to say about it. We'll see when we do a Resi 4 playthrough, but yeah, overall very positive experience and a solid enough game to bring me back for more.
Nice. Yeah, for my answer, because I'm the one that kind of drug y'all through this, although an unknown family member is the one who got you the gift, I'm still the one that drug you to the podcast. I originally started, this is going to reveal how Christian and homeschool my upbringing is. I basically hadn't played many M-rated games at all. I think Halo 1, maybe, that was really like it, which is a pretty soft, and I was like, I basically was like, I was 17 or 18, I'm not kidding, and I was like, I am an adult and I want to try some M-rated adult games. What are good M-rated games? I don't want to just play child's games anymore. Not that I don't like them, but I again grown up very sheltered, and I was like, this is a whole area of gaming I have been cut off and then kind of self-imposed cut myself off of for quite some time. I'd like to break into it and see what it's about. So the first one I think I played was actually 999, which is a whole different thing we might get to eventually. It's like a visual novel with horror elements. But then one of the others, they're like, hey, classic series everyone loves, Resident Evil. So I got it on my PSP, the original PSP, on the download, and made it about to the guardhouse, from which we talked about last time. And then I don't remember exactly what happened. I think I was given a 3DS for my birthday or something like that. And I was like, oh, cool, I'm playing this old one, but like, are there new ones on the 3DS? And sure enough, there was. And so I quit actually playing the original one. And Resident Evil Revelations on the 3DS was in fact the first Resident Evil game I completed. And I loved it. We'll get there eventually, whether that holds up today or not. Don't want to spoil. But I, at the time, loved it, thought it was great, and it got me hyped enough that, again, this was kind of Steam mainstreamification, or my understanding of it. I didn't have a gaming PC, but I did have a Wii, and so I just started collecting any Resident Evil I could get my hands on. So I actually still have like a box full of like Resident Evil 2 and 3 on the GameCube. I got the original, remake, and 0 on the GameCube, all the ones I could on the GameCube, and then I got 5 and 6 on the 360, which we had recently got to, and I was just like, I'm gonna collect them all, I love this series, and I played them all wildly out of order. It was like Revelations, and then 4, and then 5, and then like remake, and then 0, and then 6, and then 2, and then 3 was like the order I went through the series in. It was absolutely not the right order, but it was still such a great series that I didn't mind, and yeah, so that's kind of that. But I want to make sure, again, our audience, I'm really curious to hear what games our viewers started with. So guys, if you would just let us know, I kind of want to get a sampling, because there's such a wide variety. Again, Austin was over there with 2 Remake is the first one he really got into, Christian over here with 4, and then me with Revelations. I wonder, like, if you get a big enough pool size, is it all going to go, yeah, it's this game, this is the one everyone started with? Or is it really that varied that so many people can really jump in anywhere? I'm genuinely curious about that. But yeah, that aside, we ready to kind of dig into the actual game we're talking about, Resident Evil 2 on the PS1?
Let's do it.
Alright, yeah. So, a little bit of background history like we did in the first one first. This game had a rocky development. So Shinji Mikami, who was the guy that ran the first game, it was kind of going to be the Sweet Home remake, and then maybe like a Doom-esque game, and then he kind of turned it into what it became with the classic survival horror game and the mansion and all, and the inventory management and all that. He didn't want to be the main guy for this one. We can, again, this all details, we can do a deep dive if the viewers demand it, but skimming over that, he didn't want to do that. So there's Shinji Mikami of DMC and Bayonetta fame was actually the one who ended up directing this. This was kind of his big break, and about 75 or 80% through development, basically they showed it to the higher ups, and they were like, "This game sucks. It's not very good." And Mikami was like, "Yeah, I actually agree. This is bad." And everyone's like, "This is bad." And it was like, again, Resident Evil was like a pretty big breakout hit for them. They were actually, in some financial troubles at the time, and Resident Evil 1 had done a good time. And in a shocking amount of like forethought that you don't see very much in studios today, rather than just push that out, they're like, "What if we just like started over and tried to make the game good?" And they're like, "Yeah, do that. It's more important to like keep the brand quality than just crap out a game and ruin the brand quality." So they started the whole dang thing over. Which is just crazy, and they made it under crunch, in like a really quick time, but seeing what went wrong, they went back to the drawing board, and you get the Resident Evil 2 that we get today. And I think that absolutely paid off. I mean, this thing sold about 6 million copies. Just to give some examples back of what, sales were like on the PS1 during this time. It outsold all the Spyro games, it outsold Final Fantasy IX, it outsold Tomb Raider 4, Tony Hawk, just a bunch of like, you think of quintessential classic PS1 games, and it absolutely just creamed them still. Which, again, you gotta remember, survival horror and Resident Evil were not big names at this point. It was just a one-off game that some people liked. But it somehow managed to like become, this is what solidified the series as like a mainstay that's gonna be around, and it's still Capcom's like best-selling series of all time. I think largely because of their decision to maintain the quality with a sequel and establish this as like a good series. So that's kind of the background there. There have been some leaks about that Resident Evil 1.5, that kind of started. Have any of you guys seen the leaks of the Resident Evil 1.5?
Not at all.
Yeah,
No,
I haven't
okay.
either.
Well, yeah, of course I'd be the one who geeked out about this. But basically, instead of the layout you get there, it's like 7 layers that are very realistically like a police station, like connected by a hallway just on top of each other. So it's a very interesting, very vertical map. But it's generally agreed that while it's a fascinating curiosity of history, it wouldn't have made for that good a game compared to what we actually got. So I don't know. It's one of those really interesting things to think about. But that aside, history done. Resident Evil 1.5 in the trash. Let's talk about the actual game itself. Christian.
Yes.
One of your big highlights from the first game, one of the things that pulled you through that difficulty, were the amazing, just Shakespearean levels of acting cutscenes, if I remember correctly. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. How are the second games holding up now that we don't have live action and we've gone to CGI?
Honestly, I was kind of disappointed by the cutscenes. Resi 1 set the bar so high, and just the cutscenes, they're pretty good. The graphics in general for the game, very, very distinct compared to the non-live action cutscenes from the first one. At least for me, playing the DS version, it was really, really bad. So it was definitely a change. Voice acting definitely better than the cutscenes voice acting, and I mean you could tell that they were actually trying to act instead of just reading a script. Honestly, I was impressed with the voice acting, especially. In terms of voice acting, maybe I'm jumping the gun on this, but the voice for Claire sounded kind of familiar to me. Did it? For either of you guys?
Yeah. Nope. For me, it did. Absolutely, horrifyingly. Actually, I didn't notice this at all. I'm gonna pretend like you've told me this, but I actually did not make this connection. But please tell us about this connection.
So I'm just playing the playthrough, and I hear Claire talking, and I keep on thinking that voice sounds so familiar, and I can't tell exactly who. So I Google it, and the voice actress for Claire, Allison Court, was very, very popular in the 90s. So any 90s kids that are listening to this, you might also recognize Claire's voice as Jubilee from the X-Men 90s cartoon. or you might recognize her as the main character on the big comfy couch.
Yes, Luna the clown.
Yes.
That, like, is two very segmented parts of my life crashing together in a way that I'm having a hard time reconciling. I'm going to be honest.
It literally blew my mind. I didn't realize that Jubilee and Luna were the same person either. So all three of these asteroids collided in my brain, and like I just couldn't believe it.
She's got real range, though.
Yeah,
like,
honestly.
Because normally I listen to people and I'm like, oh yeah, that's so-and-so. Austin all the time has to listen to me go, oh, that's this voice actor. And he's like, okay. But, like, I would not have pegged this. And it's, when you told me this, it just, my brain melted.
I definitely never would have recognized her from Big Comfy Couch. I was really into the 90s X-Men cartoon growing up. So like I recognized her, I guess, as Jubilee, but now I can't unhear it. And it made the rest of the game just weird. So,
you're like, why aren't you using your powers, Claire?
Where's the couch? There's one right there. Just pull something out of it. It'll help.
Oh my gosh. Oh my word. Oh, real quick though, just to bounce off of what you were saying about the voice actors, I actually think I agree that the quality of the voice actors has gone. I mean, it's undeniable. It's gone up a ton. Mm-hmm. One character who I think still isn't quite as good as like Barry or anything, but brings back the vibes of Resident Evil 1 to me is Kendo, the guy who's there for 3 seconds in the gun shop before he gets eaten, because like his line reads make him sound like he's a psychopathic serial killer to me. Maybe it's just me, but he's like, sorry about that, Dorlin. Don't you worry. I got everything taken real good here. Like, he just sounds like when I listen to him, like, he's about to eat me. I don't know what's going on. No one else is like that who isn't supposed to be. Everyone else feels very on point, but I kept waiting for Kendo to, like, try and assault me or something. Mm-hmm. And, yeah. But, before we get too off topic there, Austin, comparison to the first game, do you think, like, because, the quality's gone up, is it enough to, like, be worth it? Or, like, is it more of a detriment than a good thing? Because, it's better enough to not be campy, but it's not good enough to be good yet. Where do you think, like, the improvement lands for you?
So it doesn't, like, in comparison to the first game, it doesn't hurt the experience playing through the second game. It's just kind of like Resident Evil 1 was, like, a really, really nice truffle candy that you got, like, as a special reward, and it's, like, it's beyond good. And then Resident Evil 2 is like this is a really good chocolate. There's nothing wrong with that chocolate, but it's not like elevated through some magical voice acting mumbo jumbo that one had. But
okay.
Two still was really good to me. I felt like everything carried over really well, and I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have such a hard time with this one as well because like, I wouldn't want the series to stay a meme forever. Like, if every game continued to be as bad as one, I do not think the series would have had the staying power that it did. So, for the health of the series and the overall games, I am glad that they continued to improve, the voice acting and the quality of the storytelling. But yeah, I will admit I'm probably more likely to skip, not that you can skip, but I'm not going to go back and watch compilations of Resident Evil 2 cutscenes, whereas I definitely will on Resident Evil 1. I mean, so, like, while I think this is absolutely a step in the right direction, I will say that it doesn't carry quite the same sheen that the first game did. I think we're all kind of in a similar place on that. So yeah. But I think undeniably an upgrade in every way is something Christian tapped on. Man, those graphics, those backgrounds especially. Austin, since you were just going on about, the improvements to that, did you feel like, because you were playing, you have the most interesting thing, because you were playing kind of an upgraded version of 1 and then just playing a regular non-upscaled version of 2. What did you think about the graphical and art style jump from 1 to 2? Did it wow you, or were you just like, oh, okay, it's there?
I thought it was pretty good. I didn't personally think, and this is probably just because I had one modded upscaled of 1 and then normal 2, that it was that big of a jump, but I'm betting if you compare OG1 to OG2, it probably would have actually been pretty substantial. It was fairly good. I'm just a bad person to ask for that one, since it didn't seem like too crazy of a leap, just because of the versions that I ended up having.
Well, and then on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, as Christian mentioned, you went from the DS version of 1 to the GameCube kind of port of the PS1 version of Resident Evil 2. How did you experience that graphical shift?
It was the equivalent of, like, if I had if I was wearing drunk glasses versus regular glasses.
Oh man. Okay, that's a pretty big difference.
It was literally, it was so pixelated, it looked like it could have been on a calculator. Like, it was graphically, at least for me, this was like going from playing with sticks to playing with the remote control car.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, you were playing the visually most muddy version of Resident Evil 1 to jump to a pretty decent version of Resident Evil 2. There's technically some better upscaly things you can do, but it's on the top half of I'd say how it looks, at least emulated. Yeah, and as someone I've played a lot of different versions of these. The thing that impresses me even more than like how less pixelated or more pixelated it is the art style. Something that really strikes me, especially after playing Remake, about the first Resident Evil game is the backgrounds, while very detailed compared to what was going on in PS1 games, still holistically feel very barren. Everything feels like, this does not feel like a lived-in mansion in the first game. It's very plain, there's just enough to technically be there. But in 2, there's like a crap ton of detail and intricacies and like the art design of the backgrounds. Not even talking like resolution changes, like just what's being drawn in the backgrounds. There's a lot more like clutter. I feel like the RPD had people working and living in it in a way I have a hard time believing the PS1 Spencer Mansion did. I don't know about y'all, but that's just an art design thing. I feel like they had more of a budget and it went into the backgrounds to like really make the place pop a lot more and go from just, oh, this is pretty impressive for the time, to like, I'm actually still impressed with the art design of Resident Evil 2 even to this day. I think it's pretty good. So that's kind of my take on that one. Even more than the resolution, I think the art design change was a pretty big deal on this one. But that's enough arty-farty stuff. Am I right, fellas? I want to get into the meat and bones of this bad boy. Talk about some tone, some gameplay, that kind of thing. I think one of the first things that struck me about this is that friggin' intro. Like, you start off that game and it's like just night and day difference from the first game. I don't know if you guys have seen these movies, but if the first one is very Dawn of the Dead, this is very Day of the Dead. It's maybe I have those backwards. No, I have it backwards. Oh gosh.
You're good.
Anyway, you know what I mean. But like, we're less cabin in the woods, scary zombies are around, and more like the city has gone to hell, everything is ruined, and yeah, you're not in a mansion foyer trying to figure out tank controls. It's like, you better learn how to drive this thing like an M1 Abrams, or you're gonna die immediately. So, Christian, like, what was your experience, again, as someone who's played the least of this type of gameplay and has struggled so much with tank controls? They don't give you a lot of time to come to grips with them in this game. They assume you know and you better figure it out. Mm-hmm. How was your experience with kind of that intro and that tonal shift from 1 to 2?
I am glad that I played 1 first, because it let me learn how to tank controls at least a little bit better. I took very wide turns, and I basically just sprinted as much as I could, and I think I only died once. Getting through the intro.
Honestly impressive. Like, the first time I played this, I died like 5 times. I'm not joking. So I'm actually really impressed you only died once. I played this enough that I didn't die. Yeah, I didn't die my first time through, but it was absolutely bonkers. Austin, though, I'm sure you're going to tell us it was super easy, barely an inconvenience, right?
Well, I wouldn't say like it was super easy. I thankfully didn't die, but I did felt like I had to pay as much attention as possible to survive that. It was an incredible opening, in my opinion. I really liked how crazy and fast things got, and just a series of events escalating further and further, and then just like, well, now you're in the middle of this, have fun. It's like, okay, run! I juked hunters, I can juke you. I did get damaged a bit. I don't remember how many times, like 1 or 2 times I got hurt, but I did manage to make it through without dying.
Nice, yeah, it's quite the experience. I think as the opening to a sequel, it's fantastic. I think as an opening to the best-selling Resident Evil game that a lot of people started with, those poor children. It is the best-selling Resident Evil game on the PS1. So, like, a lot of people just started with 2. And, man, like, you think there'd at least be, like, a test level you could kind of come to grips with the controls, but nope, it's like, you're gonna figure this out trial by fire. Yeah, the test is, are you gonna get eaten immediately? Yeah. It's oh boy.
It's just the embodiment of your dad and your son needs to learn how to swim, so you throw him in the lake.
That's exactly right. Speaking of that, though, and dad throwing into a lake, like, that tonal change, it pervades the entire game in its focus, you know, kind of versus with the first one, which is a bit more slow and methodical. Like, what did you think, Austin, of kind of about the tonal change? Did you feel it? Did it impact you in a big way? What was your feeling about that?
The tone shift was definitely different. It went from, like, a little bit more mysterious horror vibe to zombie action game, which I am here for. I like zombie action games. They are fun. Just and a little bit catching up ahead of the time. English is not working for me today. Looking forward into it, the amount of just zombies compared to Game 1 really set that tone as more of a zombie action game. It was...
Oh, yeah.
It felt much more higher threat than the first game.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about the difficulty for sure. But yeah, that tonal shift is definitely there. Christian, you really struggled even with, like, the first game, which we're describing as more slow and methodical. Mm-hmm. Did pumping up the action just increase the misery and difficulty, or was it actually a pleasant change of pace after your experiences in the Spencer Mansion?
It was more enjoyable, but I still struggled.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fair.
I don't know what Resi 3 is going to look like for me, but all I know is I spent probably about 95% of the game limping.
See, that's just baffling to me. Like, I guess we'll jump... I'm jumping a little bit ahead, I know, but I think this is worth talking about, since we're kind of hitting on it already. So, it's got a big action focus, this game. Mm-hmm. Let's dive into how that affects the difficulty. There's other things we can talk about in a minute, but, like, I'll just state up front, I found this game to be loads easier than the first one. I died, I think, a single time, and it was only because I got really cocky and went to the final 2 boss fights without a single healing item, because I had been breezing through so much that I just didn't even bother to bring one, which was my bad. But, like, I finished this game with, like, dozens of pieces of ammo, like, more heals that I know what to do with, and I know that happened in the first one too, but, like, with all the action focus, it was... I saved, I think, only 5 times, and that was mostly out of, like, convenience, and I had to go and wanted to do other things than, like, I actually felt like I needed to. I never felt like I was low on health or in any danger, really, almost the entirety of the game. because you're just flush with sure there are more enemies, but you're given so many more ammo options. In fact, there's a couple sections that are clearly designed for certain things. Like there's that group of zombies where you're clearly supposed to use the rocket launcher, not the rocket launcher, but the grenade launcher at. And I intentionally went through with just my pistol just to see what happens if you use the wrong gun, intentionally like use the wrong thing for this situation. And I still breezed through, never ran out of ammo, never ran out of heals. Like it is an incredibly generous game, was my experience with it. Austin, am I just full of it? Is this just me, my Resident Evil elderly, having played through this game like 8 times-ness showing? Or what was your experience with the difficulty?
I think your repetition is showing. Not even Remake 2 knowledge could help me, like, in this particular game. I had a general idea of what I was doing, but it was I wouldn't call the game hard, but it was significantly harder than 1, in my opinion.
How many times do you think you died?
Once. I only died once.
I mean,
which is funny enough less than 1.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I also felt like my skills were much higher, and I was in a lot of more close calls and in a lot more danger throughout the game than I was in 1. Because when I died in 1, it was just all at once. It wasn't like, oh, I am beat down and having trouble clearing this thing. It was either, like, died to poison, Hunter one-shot killed me. That was my deaths in 1. This one, I died to a boss, but most of the time I was, like, on the brink of death from my encounters, which didn't happen. The amount of zombies made me have to... You spend a lot more ammo and healing items. The lickers, once they started piling more than 1 at you, they were the main devourers of my healing. Those sucked. Because I treated them like Resident Evil 2 Remake lickers, and they're not like those lickers. They're meaner.
No.
And I paid the price for that.
We'll obviously get in that Remake, but you remember when we first played Remake, and I went, oh, they nerfed the lickers, and you're like, what are you talking about? Now you know! They actually have less health than, like, in Remake, but, like, they hit a lot harder than they do in Remake. But yeah, we'll get to that. Christian, I mean, like I said, 1 gave you a run for your money. Was 2 harder? Was it easier? Has your skill improvement affected that? What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking you two, both of you guys, absolutely breezed through this. And I mean, Austin is over there saying it was hard, but he only died once. Only died once. And you're over here, oh, I didn't die, I only saved 5 times. Whoop-de-da.
I did that once.
Well, good for you. Good for you. I saved... I sent a picture. I think I saved 22 times.
We've got it saved. Yeah, you can look at 22.
I think I only had 2 ink ribbons left at the end of the game.
Oh my gosh!
And
yeah, 22 saves. There you go.
And deaths. I'll tell you, it was probably more than 22.
Yeah, but how many times did you die in the first one?
Probably more than 22.
So, like, that's you coming to grips with this game type, but, like, do you feel it was harder or easier than the first one?
I felt like it was easier than the first one, but the lickers did pack a really big punch, and they most often were what got me, especially when they were out of camera angle where I couldn't see them, and then they did that giant jumping lunge attack at me. That was hurt bad. I was wounded.
Here's a tip for... Oh, go on.
Well, just like I know that there was the paper, and I read the paper talking about how they're blind, but they hear and smell you. And I didn't think that was a tip. I thought that was more just like filler backstory kind of stuff. I didn't think it actually came into play. I thought it was just like when you get within a certain range of a licker, it's gonna attack, kind of a thing. So I just tried to sprint past all of them.
Oh,
Just
that's
so
the
you
wrong
know,
move.
That's not the right move. Because they are faster than your sprint. And they're definitely faster than your limp. In case you were wondering. So I limped a lot. Which I honestly thought was kind of funny, because, like, you know, limping, you get to stairs, do. Like she doesn't limp up the stairs, which you would think would be the harder part, but because it's like a programmed thing, she just like breezes through the stairs and then proceeds to drag her leg behind her. I thought that was pretty funny.
She gets a burst of inspiration.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
so funny.
I enjoyed it more, but it was more difficult.
Wait, was it more like, because you just said it was easier a second ago? Which is it? Was it easier or harder?
It was easier, but when I say more difficult, I mean because of my lack of health. Like, the game itself wasn't more difficult, I just feel like I had a more difficult time, if that makes sense.
Interesting. So I guess you're both saying, because that's, so dig into this with me, y'all. What I'm hearing is, like, when we stop and kind of objectively look at some markers, like how often did I die, how often did I blah blah blah, like, it's either the same or easier than one, but it felt, is what I keep hearing from y'all, like you were gonna die more often. You were more worried about. Resident Evil 1 had problems where, or not problems, but it's like, I feel good, oh wow, I'm dead. Like, it just was like, came out of nowhere, wham, bam, dead. 2 had a lot more moments where y'all felt like, golly, I need some healing. I can't, like, or the situation, I'm in a jam, I'm out of something. Does that sound right?
Guess so.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Interesting. So maybe it's not necessarily more difficult, but it's it's better at keeping a consistent level of tension. Mm-hmm. It's kind of what I'm hearing, which is an interesting thought. Were you going to say something, Austin?
No, that was Christian.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, so, I don't know. I felt like it was easier, but I've played it a lot. But I've played 1 a lot, so who knows?
Good for you.
Okay. Diving into the gameplay here. You know what, real quick, we'll go over it. Yeah, I finished the game at 3 hours and 47 minutes with 5 saves. Austin was 4 hours and 15 minutes with 9 saves. Christian was 5 hours and 24 with 22 saves. But that's a huge improvement, because it took you 9 hours to beat the first game, and you did this one in 5.5. So, like, that's a huge, like, shift in how you're playing these, Christian. I think that shows, like, wild improvement.
Thank you.
So yeah. Okay, so digging into the gameplay a little bit here, though. One thing I noticed, like, that can contribute to that is, like, I feel like the balance of power isn't changed too incredibly much, but there just is more of everything. There's more ammo, more guns, more enemies, more enemy types, which gives it more of an action focus and can increase to that kind of constant tension you guys were talking about. It's less like, crap, I got 5 bullets, how am I going to get this? And more like, yeah, I got like 20 bullets, but there's like 30 guys standing between me and the next thing I need to get to. You know, kind of a deal. Do you guys feel like, as we're kind of drifting towards, and hint, this is a thing that's going to keep happening, we're drifting more towards action and less away from kind of slow, methodical exploration? We'll keep asking this as it goes, but do you think the tank controls and fixed camera angles still work with this level of action? Austin, what's your take?
As of right now, yes, it still does. In specifically, like, how it affected difficulty perception on my side, it felt more suspenseful action, as opposed to like a game like, say, Left 4 Dead, where that's just more kind of shoot the hordes crazy. I would imagine like a game like Left 4 Dead with fixed camera angles like Resident Evil would go horribly, but with still with the resource management, the weapon types, and still not being overly populated with zombies yet, the particular style of this game still holds.
Okay. Christian, I know you don't like... I guess your answer is probably no, none of these should be fixed camera angles and tank control, but I mean, do you feel like this is worse or better for that style than the first game?
I think it is better. I think it's better for that style, but I do think only to a point.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've played Resi 4. I don't think this style would work with like the level of action that you see in Resi 4.
Right. Yeah.
It would become too much.
Yeah. So you feel like, actually, if I understand correctly, this level of action is an improvement from the first game, gave it a little bit of shot in the arm, but that they're diminishing returns if you were to keep pushing that action button a bit more. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I tend to... So I'm mildly cheating. I'm also looking into the future. I like the slower pace of 1 better for this gameplay style. That doesn't necessarily mean 1 is better than 2. We'll get to that in a bit when we, finish Leon. But what I do know is that Remake is phenomenal, and that kind of emulates the slower style of 1. And in my opinion, spoilers, whatever, that is the best fixed camera, tank-controlled survival horror game that there is. So cheating and looking to the future, I can be like, no, this is actually really good when it's slow and methodical and done right with a lot of experience. But I don't think it's lost the core of what makes survival horror good here. I still think a little bit too easy. I wish there was a harder mode that was built in. I've really been tempted to look up and see if there's like hacks of this game that can be like a hard mode. Because I think y'all are going to experience this. We're going to play Route B, and Route B has some new tricks for you when you get there. But I think your knowledge of how the game works is going to outweigh even those new tricks, and you're going to be like, oh, that was actually really manageable a second time. We'll see if I'm wrong. But I think once you kind of know this game's tricks up its sleeve, it kind of folds over on itself and becomes a very easy game. Still enjoyable, but I think that tension goes away real quick when the difficulty is as manageable as it is once you know what's coming. We'll see if I'm wrong on that as we go on to that. But yeah, all that shooty stuff out of the way, there is another element to this we've been kind of neglecting. Puzzles! I felt like they were a lot less prevalent in this one than they were the last one. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but yeah, I'll give my opinion first on this. Like, what I'm gonna ask and then answer. There's a lot of puzzles in this game. Are they better? Are they worse? I think they're just not there as much. I kind of missed them. I like the item management stuff, but I kind of missed having to think about the puzzles. And when they were there, they felt a little... Maybe I'm... I don't know. They felt a little insulting. The only one that I even remember really actually being a puzzle and not, hey, just go get the items and bring them here, was the candle puzzle, where it's like do the queen, then the jack, then the king, and you have to associate that with like 12, 11, 13, I think, or something like that. Whatever the card number's on. I just outed myself as a farce. Yeah, but but like that's the closest thing to a puzzle. I felt like. I think everything else was like bring item to where it's obviously used. Like, you got a red gem, and then later it's like, here's a hole that would fit a red gem. Like, there wasn't a lot of critical thinking needed, and like one was no like brain teaser central, but there were a couple puzzles we even mentioned getting stumped on. The poison rooms where you had to think about like that. The famous crow art gallery. There's some puzzles that stick out as actually requiring like a little bit of thought, and I do not feel like there was anything equivalent in Claire A run, at least. Austin, especially someone who's new to these puzzles, even though you've played the game yourself, what do you think about kind of the level of difficulty of the puzzles? Do they easy it too much? Was it just fine? Is my pre-knowledge showing again? What do you think?
Not gonna lie, when you started announcing the puzzle section, I thought, puzzles? What puzzles?
They were there!
Like they were not really prevalent, because he pretty much summed it well. Like, it's just grab item, take to where obviously item goes. And that was kind of jarring, knowing like how Resident Evil 2 Remake did things. I felt like that had more puzzles than this one, and I was just like... I went in expecting to see some of the same puzzles or similar puzzles. I'm like, oh. they're not here.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Yeah. Yeah, they're just kind of gone. Christian, like, we've got a lot more experience with this series. Do you feel like, actually, there are puzzles, you guys just knew what was coming, and you're talking out of your butts? What do you think?
I mean, the puzzles definitely seem to be a step down, because it was mostly, like you guys said, just collect this, bring it to this site, match the bookshelves with this picture.
Oh, yeah!
Like,
Yeah, but that wasn't even critical thinking, that was, like, copy-paste, right?
Exactly. No critical thinking. Make the statues look at each other. Like, it just, there really weren't any puzzles.
Yeah.
So
I miss them.
I do too.
Yeah.
Do you miss them, or you say good riddance, Christian?
I honestly kind of missed them. I felt
Okay.
like that was such a core part of the first game that this was kind of they stepped up the action, but they stepped down in the puzzles. I would have liked to see them upping the action, but also upping the puzzles, or maybe even having like an intense puzzle or something like that, as opposed to just collect this and take it here.
Yeah.
Burn this painting, like things like that.
Which they did basically in the I know it was technically like put a like thing over the fire, but they have you like light a fireplace in the first game too. Like Yeah. Okay, so but like you could forgive a lot. There's one thing I'll give it, because we even talked about the first game where we liked the puzzles fine, but we all agreed like the most interesting puzzles were like the open-endedness of the mansion and like getting the right items to the right places was in we kind of said was a puzzle in and of itself, you know, the item management part of it from the first game. That's still here, but is it better, is it worse, is it about the same? And the map design has a lot of similarities in layout, a left wing and a right wing, kind of to that mansion again. A lot of locked doors, there's 4 keys again. You know, you're collecting 4 doodads, like it's 3, but one's broken in half, so you're collecting like 4 doodads to go to the new area. Like, progression-wise, it is echoing 1 very hard. Now, not talking about the game as a whole, but like the item progression and map design specifically. Do you think that was a step up, a step down, or kind of a wash as it's doing the same thing? Austin, you tell me first.
So specifically looking at the map design angle, I still liked the map. I thought the map was probably a step up. Progression-wise, I got way more lost in this game at the beginning than I did in the first one. Because progression in this one was kind of weird to me, considering how like I would explore methodically some rooms and then eventually find like the key item somewhere else and then use the key item, grab the things, and then nothing happens and I gain no new key items. And then I'd be sitting there like, what the heck am I supposed to do now? I've already cleared all these areas. But without having any ideas, like, oh, we'll go back to the random top left corner that you were already at that you explored forever ago for a cutscene in order for you to play more. And I
That
didn't
only
like that.
happens once, and I did warn you about it. That is one thing I don't like. There is one, I think it's only once, but there's one moment in this game where progression isn't gated behind items, it's gated by a cutscene, and there's nothing telling you that's gonna happen. I think I could forgive that if when you got to the point where that was the next thing to do, you like had a cutscene where she walks through a door, hears like Sherry scream and goes, I think that was coming through the northwest part of the map. I should go check that out. Like, I could totally forgive it if they had done that. But it is just kind of like, head back to that room where you like met Irons. How should you know that? You've done everything else. I do agree that's a problem. But it only does that once. Here. To its credit. I'll also toss out, like, one thing that's interesting is you're talking about feeling more lost, and then, Christian, I'll ask you your opinion on this, but I do want to state this as, like, an objective fact. I wonder if it's because 1 has more things you can do with your keys. Each key in Resident Evil 2 only opens 2 doors. Like, there are far fewer doors, and there are far fewer optional doors. So, like, objectively, that is more streamlined. You have fewer options, but it might also feel like you're getting less progress, because it's like, well, I opened 2 doors. instead of like, even though only one of those doors has like the next progression item, Resident Evil 1 often feels like, well, only maybe you can open 4 doors and only one of them has the item, but you get to open 4 doors, so you constantly feel like you're making progress with that key and like discovering new things, because especially your first time you don't know what the key item, which room it's going to be in. So I find it interesting that in their attempt to streamline the kind of progression of doors, it sounds like you felt like less able to easily make progress, maybe because of that railroading, Austin.
Just
I don't know.
in the beginning, it got a lot better, like significantly better. Once I started rolling enough through the RPD and stuff started changing, I didn't get lost anymore.
Interesting. All right, Christian, where are you at on the, again, specifically like the item management and unlocking and map design of this game? How's it compared to the first? More complex, less, easier, more lost? Just give us your thoughts.
I liked it more. I did think, at least once you start collecting the keys, I felt like that made it easier, because if you look at the key and then you look at the map, the color on the key corresponds with the doors that it unlocks.
Yeah, I love that feature.
So that definitely made it easier, because I would look at the key and be like, oh, this is green. Okay, well, both doors are in the east wing, so I'm just gonna go there. So that really streamlined and it saved me from having to just kind of wander around hoping I find the right locked door. But which is kind of what I ended up doing in 1. But in terms of just like general map design, I feel like it was good. I do think that I kind of had a slow start up into kind of those cutscenes and when you really start collecting the keys. Because prior to that, I, just kind of wander around hoping to find something I missed, or I didn't notice that there was an item in the corner of that room the first time I came in, so I have to make sure I have enough space to go down, get it, and take it to pour water on the helicopter, things like that.
So yeah, maybe so the actual literal item progression is a little bit simplified, but some of the conveyance didn't make up for the lack of that, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, interesting. I think that's a fair take. Alrighty. We've hinted a lot at the story, but I think we should maybe go over some of the big events kind of in order, clarify things for the viewers who haven't played this darling game, although most everyone's played the remake at this point. So yeah, as we mentioned, city's overrun by zombies. We're not up in the mountains anymore. You're in Raccoon City, where the police are from, and boy howdy, that setting change. Am I right, fellas?
Yeah, the city's the worst place to be in a breakout like that.
Oh man, yeah, right. Even though I think it loses something in the mysterious mansion atmosphere, I will say it's more oppressive, especially that initial run. As jarring as it is gameplay-wise, gives you a good feeling for, crap. Because, yeah, the first game, it's if we can just get someone to friggin' get us a helicopter, we'll get out of here. But, it really does feel hopeless when you're running through the streets. When you see the extent of the damage, it's well, this is life now. Yeah. Any other thoughts on kind of, the city?
I do enjoy the city aspect of it. What I think... So I really like the intro of it in this particular game style with the fixed camera angles for the short section that it is. I would really have a good time in a Resident Evil game in the city constantly in a more action-paced style thing to actually experience the insane levels of infected and devastation that a city in Breakout would have.
Interesting. Can you expand on that a little bit? What do you mean by that?
So the being able to have a Resident Evil game where you're trying to navigate out of a city in more of the new modern style would probably be great, because I think that would be a much better way to experience an actual infested city as opposed to fixed camera angles. Fixed camera angles is good in like chunks of it, but if you're playing an entire big action game where you're just dealing with the city population of zombies trying to get out, it couldn't be a resource management game in my opinion in that case, and then it would lose its strong suits of that style.
I am so excited for you to play Resident Evil 3 OG, because the entire first half or third of the game is just Jill running through an infected city.
Really?
I'm terrified.
Yeah. Imagine that first run in Resident Evil 1, except for there's more interconnecting, like, intertwining alleys. And that's the first half of the game, instead of a mansion.
Oh my.
Resident Evil 3 is gonna be quite the experience. But yeah, you finally get through that city, back to this game. You meet Martin. I like Martin. I'm gonna be honest, though. I like Martin because of the remake. He's fine here, but he is just like, here's a card, go away. That's like all he does in this game.
Yeah, I was sad. I kept trying to check on him for more interactions.
He's better in the remake, like, just spoilers, but like, he's fine here, but like, he's barely a character. But,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, hey, Martin, but it gives me great affection for him. You know, pretty quickly, though, we were introduced to Lickers, which we've talked about. How effective do you think that, like, intro scene was? I actually thought, like, when I'm sorry, I'm detouring here real quick. When the hunters are introduced, and it frigging, like, shows that little scaly green hand trying to turn that doorknob in the first game, I do think that undermines even though they're, like, objectively, I think, way worse enemies. I think they're way more dangerous once you know, because even if you know how to handle a hunter, you can still get stun locked and killed. Lickers, if you know how to handle, which, as we mentioned before, you, like, walk slowly until they get close, and then you run. You know, they can also be killed in 1 or 2 flame rounds very quickly. They actually don't have a lot of health. But you know, they're much scarier in introduction, I feel like. Like, am I wrong, Christian, or these guys have a way more intimidating introduction than, ooh, let me open this doorknob?
You know, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think the Hunter's intro could have been better, but I felt like the Lickers had a nice build up to it with the whole this head looks like it was ripped clean off.
Oh, yeah.
And then this grotesque thing is just scaling the ceiling towards you. It's bone chilling.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, some effective horror this time, I think. And then we kind of talked about, you know, some of the other plot points that hit. Sherry sure is running around randomly. Like, I know everyone in this police department's, like, dead or a zombie, but, like, it still baffles me that there's, like, this 8-year-old or 6-year-old girl just running around the zombie apocalypse. Like, I don't know. It just feels so baffling to me. She's cute, though. I like Sherry as a character. Austin, do you like Sherry? I mean, you have foreknowledge of the future, but I like her in this game, I think.
I didn't have any issues with Sherry, honestly. I mean, thankfully it wasn't, well, I mean, later on it becomes a little bit like this, but it didn't feel too bad escort mission-wise. Okay. She never was, like, a liability in any capacity, and her, like, characterization was fine. Nothing really stood out, but nothing was really bad about it.
Yeah, and for those who haven't played, yeah, Sherry's a little girl running around the police station who's like she's the child of 2 umbrella scientists who were part of the reason the zombie apocalypse happened, and she helps you out a couple times. One thing I think that makes her more valuable is she does have a little section where you control her and she can't attack, but she's decently good at dodging, you know, the zombies there. She doesn't die in one hit, and she can pick up items. Not just key items, she can actually pick up items in that little section if you, like, go and grab some grenade launcher rounds.
I did.
When you toss, like, like, you have to get a key, and you toss that to Claire. She goes, and I found this too! And throws you extra ammo, and I'm like, dude, useful! Sorry to throw into the future, and I don't mind her that much, but more useful than Ashley ever was. So, like, I'm just saying. I mean, Christian, how could you hate this little girl? She's basically perfect, right?
So, the Sherry for the first half of the game, great. I mean, she was helpful. She got stuff, she carried stuff, and she brought them to me. this little girl is so fast, and she is she's dodging dogs, dodging zombies, collecting stuff. But like, I just think the whole, like, here, you stay here, and then she goes and runs off, or here, come with me, and then she's like, no, I think I'll stay here, and then she still runs off. Like, pick one, girl. Like, come on.
The spirit of Rebecca lives on. Can I join you on your team? Yes. Okay, you go ahead and I'll stay here.
Exactly.
Lives on. Yeah, I okay, here's an interesting place where I know we differed because I mentioned this before. I think it is a great little bit of characterization as someone who has a child that her running animation is faster than your walk but slower than your run. So you're constantly having to like run a bit and then stop and then run a bit and stop. And if you get too far ahead, she just like falls over and in on herself and sits still. That is exactly what walking with a child feels like, is all I'm saying.
I definitely agree with that, but the thing that bothered me about Sherry, and I'm getting into it.
Do it.
Okay, so the thing that really just grinds my gears about Sherry, so this whole game, she's running around, absolutely no problem. She's holding her own. Yeah, she's running from zombies, but she is running from zombies and outrunning them and having no problem, not showing any sign of fear. But then when she's following you around, you get 2 feet away and she's just like, let me just crouch right here on this bridge. I know I could easily take 2 steps to the left and be next to the girl with the grenade launcher, but this bridge feels safer. Like, so that's one thing. Next thing, so she has hands and she has pockets because she can carry grenade launcher ammo and keys and health first aid spray. So like, she can do that stuff. So how come she can't do that stuff when you're escorting her? Like, come on, Sherry, pull your weight. Like,
he's gonna love Resident Evil 5.
Yeah. Genuinely.
That's
that is a plus about Resident Evil 5.
yeah.
It's a big plus, but like, and I'm glad that they eventually included that. But at least here, that it frustrated me so much, and like, she just can't keep up. Like, just
the way I interpret it, Christian, and I know we kind of riffed earlier about this, but I never really felt like it was a matter of like, oh, now she's just performing worse than when I played as her, because that was all before she got infected. So I attribute most of like her issues to, there's this little kid that just got this infectious worm injected into her, and now she's being turned, and obviously she's going to have some struggles with that, and I am perfectly fine with that happening.
Yeah, but
but Pack Mule,
like,
but Child Slave, come on.
Yeah, like, there, yeah, just, I know you're not feeling good, but we got to do this to save
Carry
you.
all this
Come on,
junk and get a move on.
Carry my stuff so that you can survive. Come on. You don't want to stay here with your dad.
Yeah, just want her to carry explosive ordnance, huh?
Exactly. Just carry that for me. You're not gonna have any problems. Run from these spiders. You'll be fine. Come on, let's go.
Oh man. Okay, before we get to the spiders and her dad, we do have to talk about one more thing in the RPD. In a little section I like to call WTF, Chief Irons. Because holy cow! Did you guys read the notes, like the facts about him, by the way?
That was creepy.
So he's Austin?
He said, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, you meet him, first off. You don't read any of the notes. You meet him, and he's in, like, a taxidermy place with the mayor's dead daughter just sitting on his desk. And he's like, yeah, it sucks. She got bit by a zombie. How sad. And it's like, okay. And like Kendo, he sounds like a creepy guy who's about to eat me. But unlike Kendo, he is. Because, like, he's a complete psychopath. Like, he just sounds like a freak the first time you meet him. Mm-hmm. And then you read notes about him, and it's like, yeah, the chief, for some reason, he keeps hiding the guns and the ammo from us in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. He just, like, runs them around the department, giggling to himself while he removes the shotgun from the armory. We can't find the guns anymore. Like, that's the first thing. And you find this other thing, like, yeah, we did a report, which also, why would you send this fax to the police department when they're investigating the chief of the police department? Because, like, obviously he would see this if they weren't in the middle of the zombie apocalypse, but whatever. And it's like, yeah, we ran your background report, and Chief Irons, like, I don't know, he was, like, accused of, like, raping 9 women, and then they all quit after Umbrella paid them or something. That's weird. Anyway, like, then it's like, holy cow! Yeah. And then you get back, and, like, the thin veneer of him not being a psychopath is absolutely gone. And he's like, what if I just start murdering people for fun? But luckily, Sherry's dad impregnates him first, so he dies. That is the best way I could describe it. Except for before we move on to that horrible sentence I just said, the other thing that baffles me is you finally collect all the things in his office, and you go, like, this picture's like, hide. Okay, this is the way to get out of the RPD, is like a little secret entrance by his office. Fine. That's great and good and everything. And then it takes you down to the medieval torture dungeon that exists beneath this police department in, like, mid-America? Why is there a medieval torture dungeon here? America is not old enough to have medieval torture dungeons, which means this was specifically designed, like, for him, for this place. Why is that there? Nothing in the notes explains it. Is this part of the art museum that it was? Austin, any ideas what's going on? Because that's the scariest thing in this whole game.
I'd rather not think about Chief Irons if I can help it.
Christian, any ideas where the horrible torture dungeon came from?
I don't know where it came from. I suspect that he may be behind it.
Oh, I don't like that.
Why
are all the stains on the wall not red?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh my word. I will say, at least this being my first playthrough, going down there and, like, you open the door and it does the whole door opening animation, and then the screen stays black and you just hear him laughing. That was
Yeah.
kind of that was pretty creepy.
Was it creepier than the when you open the door and you get ambushed?
There was a good bit of additional creepy, just like spooky vibes that was very much not expected. Like you said, you go to open the door and 2 zombies come through. Like that only happens in that one spot in the game, because once it happened, I was anticipating it to happen more, but it never did. But I felt like that was such a nice touch that they just kind of threw in there, because if you played the first one, you're used to, oh yeah, you have this whole door animation and you walk through. Which I guess that's why they don't let you skip the door animations in this one.
Oh, you can't skip the door animations usually. Just the DS version let you have that. That's not a normal thing.
I wasn't sure if that was the DS version or just something that they had in the original.
Fun fact, it's because it's disc based and they have to load the next area, and the door animations are basically a loading screen, but they're hiding the loading. But the DS version is cartridge based, and so it could load them fast enough that you can just skip the animation if you want.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, there's your fun fact for the day. But yeah, so Birkin, who is Sherry's father, has been transformed into a monster because Umbrella tried to steal his stuff. his secret virus that's even better than the T virus. It's the G virus. That's a different letter, so it's better now.
G for good virus.
Yeah,
G
good virus. It actually stands for Golgotha, which is really interesting.
Why not Gongaga?
What? Oh man. I'm having PTSD. Me? Gunga. Anyway. Oh wow. Okay. That's a whole different game we may never get to. But yeah, I'm losing it. Yeah.
Are you okay?
I cannot recover from this. I've been infected with the memes virus. Anyway, Birkin. Birkin is a scientist. He gets infected with the good virus, which is what we're calling it from now on. It's even gooder than the T virus. And it turns him into like a spooky monster. I love it because he starts the trend of like creatures that like mutate as they go along, and he's slowly becoming like a spookier and spookier monster and less human. And I think that's a great touch. But you kind of get hints of him running around a few times chasing Sherry. And he goes in and, like, friggin' aliens, Chief Irons, and then Chief Irons is, like, about to kill you and Sherry, and then the chest burster pops out and jumps into the sewers attached to the creepy torture dungeon, and then you have to fight a pretty lame boss, in my opinion, but, at least everything to that point is, like, pretty nifty. I think it's fun. Did that boss give either of y'all any trouble? Because it was just hold down SMG button for me.
I had some trouble.
Yeah.
I was limping going down there. And I did
the
not
little
have the
guys could get
SMG. Yeah.
Why? Oh, you grabbed the pouch instead.
I grabbed the pouch because I figured I'd leave the SMG for Leon.
Interesting.
And the Austin gave me the tip of if you grenade launcher basically immediately, it takes out the slugs and it gives you enough time to run around behind it. So then I basically ran around behind it and reloaded my grenade launcher real quick and just bang, 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 boom, boom. And
does it do more damage from behind or something?
Because you can hit the eye, which is like the weak point.
Oh, I didn't even know about that. I just SMG'd it in the face.
But it took me multiple tries because I was at the point of limping and I didn't have any heal items. So
okay,
basically one slug killed me.
Do you find yourself at a I know you're low on healing items a lot. Do you find yourself with a lot of extra ammo as you're playing these games, or at least this one? Christian?
I found myself with a good bit of extra grenade launcher ammo, at least at the very end, but for the most part, I use a good bit of my ammo.
Interesting. Okay, because I was going to say, sometimes I play these games and find myself with a lot of ammo and not a lot of healing items, and I go, okay, I need to be shooting more often and trying to juke less, is what that tells me. But if you're low on both, I don't know what to tell you.
I'm just
bad. Austin. You're just new at it, that's all. Austin, did that guy give you any trouble, that boss?
Not really any trouble. I did grab the SMG and leave the pouch, but I got a couple of those stupid little things to jump on me a few different times, so it wasn't like what you described, just hold down SMG button to win for me, because I saw the eye and I was conditioned, that's the shot I gotta shoot. That's the weak point. So I would just shoot the things, run behind it, shoot the eye until it turned around, rinse, repeat until it finally died.
Oh, Classic Resident Evil bosses are not like strategy. It is like, hold down, did you bring enough heals or weapon? It's just a resource check almost every time. Interesting. Okay, well, commenters, let us know who's right and who's wrong. But yeah, so, that guy didn't give you trouble, Austin, but did the giant alligator hiding in the sewers give you any trouble?
Not even the slightest.
Christian?
It did not. It was funny though.
Yeah. Yeah, it cracks me up. This is just a giant sewer alligator. So you didn't have trouble knocking down the canister and then shooting it?
No, once you knock it down, it goes right in the alligator's mouth. So you just boom.
Wait.
That's so funny. It is funny though, because like I feel like there isn't really a plot until you get to the sewers, which is like funny if you think about it. It's pretty much like get to the RPD, you meet Sherry, I guess, but like you're pretty much just wandering around the RPD, and then you get to the sewers. That's the first time you actually see Birkin, like the villain of the game, and he's wandering around looking for Sherry, and that's when Sherry gets infected. And that's so like the whole first half of the game, you're just kind of like wandering around without a plot, and then it's like, okay, we're done wandering. Story time now. It's like how the game feels to me. But I do love like the cinematics as he's wandering around. I love meeting Annette, that's Sherry's mom, who kind of fills you in on what's going on. I love that she's like an evil mad scientist but does care about her daughter, because that doesn't carry over in the remake where she's just like evil. Like
Yeah.
she actually like seems to care about her daughter in this game, which is I think makes her character more interesting. And then, yeah, you kind of go from the sewers to the, Sherry gets infected. Oh no, how are we going to fix her? But then we go to the big spooky lab. I love the big spooky lab. Because Umbrella has been this force in the background where you're like, they're doing stuff. But when you get to that lab, that's like a frigging city, like under the city already, you're like, oh, this is not like something that got accidentally cooked up in a back room. This is like an industrial military complex level like thing. It really sells how dangerous Umbrella actually is. Not like, oopsies, an accident kind of came out of control. It's like, oh, these guys have resources. They're doing stuff like on purpose. And I think that is a great contrast from Resident Evil 1. I know Resident Evil 1 had some different areas, right? You get the catacombs, you get the mansion, you do get a lab, but that lab in 1 feels kind of dinky in comparison. Like, is that fair? Like, comparing the two labs?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That lab in 2 is one of the spookier things, I feel like. I really like it. I think it really sells, like, the threat isn't just the zombies, but how dangerous the company and the people that made them are. And it starts setting up and feeling less like, oh, here's this one incident that happened, to more like, yeah, we're gonna need a franchise to deal with this crap. Which is what they were trying to do, but it's fun. But yeah. You Austin, any standouts about the lab?
Not really, to be honest. The
Did
lab was
you
kind of
guys-
like my hurry up and try to finish the game zone. I was trying to keep an eye out for, like, curious how the original's special zombies in that particular area were compared to my previous remake experience.
They're very, yeah.
It was pretty interesting.
They're less zombie-ish and more just plants. They're just like sentient plants in this one.
Yeah, that is pretty accurate. Again, I had the same thing when I got in there, thinking like, oh no, I remember puzzles from the remake. I am not looking forward to them, and then there'd just be like not puzzles at all again. So
Yeah,
that's still just been a weird thought going through the entire game. It's like, where are the puzzles?
where are the puzzles? Did you? Okay, I've got two questions for both of y'all, especially. Well, I guess Christian, I forgot to ask you thoughts on the big spooky lab.
I liked the lab. I liked that it kind of, I felt like in some ways it kind of improved on stuff from the first one. And what I mean by that is like how there was like the plant monster in the first one that you had to use like the chemicals to kill. How there were those like you said, the more plant looking zombies, like almost that kind of mutated even more into these creatures that you're now seeing like walking around. I felt like that was interesting, and kind of felt like it definitely seemed intentional continuation from the first game. And then also, I agree with you. I mean, the lab just made everything much more real and intense with like how big and bad the Umbrella Corporation really is. And I thought the one single moth was kind of weird.
Okay. You found the moth boss.
Yeah, it was just kind of out of place.
No. The people call it the moth
I
boss.
just walked up behind it and just, like, shot it with a crossbow.
Okay.
And he didn't do anything.
That is something really important. I was mixed on if I should spoil or not, because I guess now it's too late, so I'm gonna ask. Did you guys go through the trouble of registering your fingerprint in the lab?
Yes.
So you got the guest, you registered your fingerprint, and then you went back upstairs and actually pressed it into that door?
Yes.
No.
Okay, then it didn't count for you, Christian.
I registered it, though.
So if you register it downstairs, you're supposed to run back up as Claire, go to that door. There's a door that's like, you need 2 thumbprints to unlock. And if you register the first one, it goes, well, that's 1 thumbprint. You need a second. Sucks to be you. Goodbye. And you come back as Leon. And I want you to think about, that's something I'll ask about. So I want you to be ruminating. Sorry, Christian, you missed your chance, but Austin especially. What do you think could possibly be behind this door that you have to go to all that trouble of like killing that moth, finding the login, using the login, registering your fingerprint, running back upstairs, scanning your fingerprint, doing all that twice? What could be behind that door that they're hiding that much? I want you to be looking forward to that and thinking about that in your brain, okay?
I have a prediction.
Okay, what's your prediction?
It's gonna be related to the tyrants.
Okay. Christian, I know you haven't done it, but do you have a prediction about what could be worth that much trouble?
An even bigger moth.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, but just want you to think about that. The other thing you can do in this room that's a little bit interesting that I wanted to hear was, did either of y'all use the poison to get rid of the plants?
I didn't find anything like that, so no. Well,
Yeah,
maybe I
I
did.
poison.
But actually, hang on. Maybe I did. But I don't know if it actually did anything. I remember pressing something and like the rooms got dim and it was spraying something, but I don't think it did anything.
No, that does. There are like 2 of the like green looking liquors in the next room if you didn't use that poison. That poison like kills them instead. So you cleared out some enemies to use that.
Oh, okay. Well then, yes, I did.
That will have consequences later. That's one of the
Yay.
few. Yeah. So we'll talk about that the next time. But yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, that is the big spooky lab. You get Sherry basically the antidote. You get 1 single MO disc to get out of there, which I thought was a cute little callback. And then basically you fight Birkin. I felt like that last boss fight was basically a joke. That is the one that killed me.
died.
I was gonna say I died too, but it's because I brought 0 heals. Oh, that's right, because Austin, you didn't get the zappy gun in the sewers. So you actually had to fight him. Christian, I got the zappy gun. That pretty much shreds him, doesn't it, Christian?
Oh yeah, it was a breeze. That was actually one of the few times I didn't die.
I was running around in circles, turning and shooting, getting hit, using all of my healing items. That was an intense fight.
Not if you have the zappy gun.
Oh yeah, because it stuns him too every shot.
Yeah, every shot sunlocks him and damages him an intense amount.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Did you use the acid rounds at least? He's weak to that.
I don't think I had any.
Oh, buddy.
I had grenade and fire, and I used them.
Well,
I used the last of my grenade launcher rounds to kill that dude. He took 20 to bring down, and all the rest of my I think I had 1 green herb left in my box after fighting that guy.
I am so interested to see if Route B is easier or not. For y'all.
It should hopefully, because I should hopefully not miss weapons.
Alright. Well, let's wrap this up before we head off to Route B specifically. Some final thoughts, and we've already done some predictions, but I want to hear it. First question, I'm going to ask Christian. Is this game scarier than 1?
Yes.
Ruby thinks so. You think it's scarier than the first game?
Yes.
Alright, is it scary at all? Because we didn't think the first one was scary. Does this cross over into mildly scary?
I would say so. Yeah.
Ooh, we've cracked the scary barrier already. Because 1 was not scary. We all agreed, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not at all.
Yeah. All right, Austin. Is this game scarier than 1?
Yes.
Does it crack the scary barrier for you at all?
No. It's
Okay.
like if Resident Evil 1 was like a 0 to 1 out of 10 scary,
You
Resident
said
Evil
it
2
was
was
a 5%.
maybe 5%. Yeah, so like 5% scary. Resident Evil 2 was maybe 10% at most scary. It upped it, but like it needs to be at least getting to the 30 higher percent for me to start saying it was a bit scary.
I think it lacks in the conceptual horror. I still think the guard, the watchman, Itchy Tasty, I still think that's spooky, and there's nothing quite nearly as good as that. There's like one dude who's like playing a dude with chess, and he's like, my chess buddy sure says he's hungry, and he smells a lot. It is not even close to being as effective. So I think it loses out in the conceptual horror. It's not playing with you like thinking about like and trying to put yourself in these situations. I think the lickers are more effective threats, ironically, by being less damaging than the hunters, because they do lead to that problem y'all had, where they're less likely to kill you. We collectively died less, but it sounds like we collectively limped a lot more,
Yeah.
And I think that actually works better for a horror game. Dying isn't scary. Being about to die is scary in games like these, in my opinion. As you die, all the tension releases and you start over, and you either get frustrated or it's monotonous. But being constantly on the verge of death, which the lickers are better at doing than the hunters, fulfilling that role. So I think it is conceptually less scary, but I think gameplay-wise is more tension-building. But I also thought both were decently easy, so what do I know? I want hard hacks of this game. Following that up, though, Austin, was it more fun than the original Resident Evil 1?
About the same.
Okay. Christian?
I would say
And so far, you have room to change. We're going to do Leon, but yeah.
I would say so far in terms of the gameplay, I had more fun with the gameplay this time.
Okay.
But one has all the campiness to it, which I
Really does.
I still miss.
Yeah, so the rating's out on whether the overall rating will go up or not, but the gameplay. Okay. But that leads straight into what I was going to ask next. Does the story work, or has it lost enough camp but not gained enough quality? Sounds like that's the case for you, right, Christian?
In terms of the story, I feel like the story works.
No, but you also said, like, the amount of charm it's lost in not being as campy has not been equally offset with how much better it got.
I would
We've
say
lost
so far,
more.
yeah.
Yeah, we've lost more in camp than we have gained in quality, even though it is a big boost in quality. What
Yeah.
about you, Austin? Where are you on that camp to quality scale?
So, I am a big fan of both the serious tone and the campy tone. I love it when the game embraces the camp, and I'm fine, love it typically when the game embraces the seriousness. So, I don't feel like the change in the more like higher quality, more serious with sacrificing camp hurt it in any way, because I like both sides of that coin.
Yeah. Okay, so it's about even with
Yes.
one in terms of the story. Okay, that's fair. All right. Yeah, I'm so torn on whether I think it works better or not. I think from what I've seen so far, trying to divorce myself from what I know in the future, I think it is about even. I'm with you, Austin, but I suspect, using my future knowledge, that seeing both Claire and Leon's campaign, that I think it might push it over the edge, because I think the thing is, this didn't really have a resolution. You beat that final boss, but like, we don't know, we didn't solve. Umbrella is still out there causing problems. Most of the plot threads have not been resolved. Like, you do keep Sherry from dying, but there's a lot that still, we've only seen half the story, so it's a little hard to exactly be sure what the other half is going to be like. We haven't even seen the true ending yet. But yeah, from there, so far, I want to ask, and I'll answer this one first, and then say, what has impressed you the most? I think for me, just the upgrade in fidelity. I really do like the backgrounds. I can notice so much more detail. There are other improvements in other areas, but the thing that, like, a lot of these are one step forward, one step back, or we go, well, it's better in this, it's worse in this way, but, like, one thing that is just, in my opinion, objectively better is the art design in the backgrounds. Like, there's just no comparison. It is just better. Christian, what's one thing that impressed you the most about this?
I was the most impressed.
Yeah.
One thing that I took special note of that I felt like was impressive was how much more detailed, not only in terms of like the graphics and the art design, but also in the voice acting and just the sound effects that they had in the game. Like when there was like a shattered window and you walked over it, I know this was because of the lickers, but you could hear when you were stepping on glass versus when you were stepping on just regular floor. And that's something that was not present in Resident Evil 1. So I felt like that was much more of an attention to detail that impressed me.
Yeah, so the presentation in general is where you're at with that one. That's awesome. I love, we didn't mention this, but like, when you're walking through that one hallway and the friggin' zombie arms just like all stick out and like try and grab at you.
Oh my word.
Those little bespoke moments are pretty great. Or the friggin' licker jumping through the window, too. That's another little spook. Remember the licker that jumps through that
I'll never
window?
forget.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I'm traumatized.
All right, Austin. Yeah. Yeah, well, get ready for more. Austin, what about this so far has impressed you the most?
I really liked the variety in the zombie types compared to the first game.
Oh, yeah. So another presentation thing. Different variations of the presentation was a lot better, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. All right. What do you like in the least about this one? Austin, send back to you.
What do I dislike the least about it? The lack of puzzles, probably.
Yeah.
Because I felt like a major component of what makes Resident Evil games is just kind of missing.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Christian, what do you think?
I would echo Austin and add to it the lack of puzzles, and for me, the lack of campiness, because the only... I've played 4, 1, and part of 2 now, and 4 and 1 both have campiness to them, so 2's the only Resident Evil I've played that doesn't have that campy feel.
It's got a little bit, but...
it's not enough.
I mean, yeah.
This is glamping. I want real camping.
That's an amazing quote.
Thank you.
Oh, that's going in a short. Anyway. But soak up the kendo while you can in Leon. I'm just saying, that's where you'll get most of your camp. Just like breathe it in. I think what I like the least, I'm looking to the future and I think you guys can't really. I like the replayability of these games. I think Resident Evil 1 is more replayable than 2. 2 has more replayable options technically. On paper, it's more replayable. We probably won't even deal with this much, but I think it's worth talking about. But, like, Jill's campaign plays way differently from Chris's campaign. I know y'all didn't play both, but we talked about the differences. Jill's definitely an easy mode to Chris's hard mode. And there's different weapons and different orders and, like, different stories. It is significantly different experience to, like, go through Jill and then go through Chris or vice versa. Leon and Claire are a little bit different, but I feel like you're going to feel a lot of overlap. I feel like you're going to play this, and the story's going to be decently different, but you're going to be like, oh, this is mostly the same game again, actually. It's not going to feel as different as I think you're expecting. I think you're going to be surprised how much repeated content there is. And then, I'm not making y'all do this because I love you, but to see all the stuff, you have to play the game 2 more times by doing Leon first and then Claire second. And I feel like each campaign realistically has about, at most, 30 minutes of unique content out of like a 4-hour game. And so, you know, if you're playing 4 hours, I know some of it's 5, but if you're playing roughly on average about 4 hours, you know, 4, 8, 12, 16, you're playing 16 hours, and then there's basically what would equate to 5.5 hours of unique content out of 16 hours. So I don't like that, because I feel like there's a lot more unique to Jill, at least in the gameplay, or unique to Chris, and you only have to play that through twice, you know. So that's, I know I'm looking into the future and it's a little bit esoteric, but that, it really bugs me how they kind of tout this as like, oh, it's so replayable, and I'm like, you stuck a little bit of replayability amongst a lot of filler, and I noticed Mr. Hideki Kamiya, who made the best-selling PS1 Resident Evil and saved the entire series. I noticed!
I see what you did there.
I see it, yeah, that's right. Next you're gonna tell me DMC has boss rushes to try and, you know, like pad the runtime there. I'm watching you! Anyway. So, before we head out, what are you hoping for with the B route? Austin.
I'm looking forward to hating Ada in yet another game.
I think you might like her a bit more because this is where she's at her most likable. But, yeah. Christian?
I'm looking forward to playing more.
Being done with tank controls.
Yeah. This gets us one step closer.
Oh man!
Wait till the final boss.
Any final predictions that we missed over? Anything you're expecting? You know, is Barry gonna show up and be sus again?
I don't think we're gonna see Barry again. I want to know. I'm sure she will appear again sometime in the Resident Evil arc, but I want to know what's going on. What's gonna happen to Sherry? Because like at the end of the game, the picture is her on a motorcycle with Claire. So like, is Claire adopting Sherry, or are they just riding away together? Like, what's going on there?
She does show up again, actually. Do you want me to tell you what game that is, or you want to be surprised?
If I had
to, be a long time.
If I had to guess, I'm gonna say she'll show up in 6.
That is correct.
Really?
Sherry shows up again at 6. So you got a long time to wait on that.
I'm so proud of myself.
It's worth it.
You did good. It is good. Sherry.
6 is an incredible game.
Oh man, I cannot wait. But yeah, that's a good prediction. All right, I think that's all I got. Fellas, thank you for going through this wild zombie-filled journey. Next time, we're gonna see how Leon handles the apocalypse. We're gonna get to the end of this game, and then there's only one more trial, one more nemesis to fight before we finish this season. So, thank you very much. Love you guys, and God bless.
Bye.
No goodbye from Christian.
Au revoir.